An old woman raises a giant wolf. What it does after her death will shock you. In a remote village where few people pass by, there was a small village hidden among the dense forests. In the village, there was an old woman named Mary who lived alone in a small house surrounded by tall, ancient trees. She had no husband and no children. Everyone in the village knew of her, but no one truly understood her life. Mary was a quiet woman, always living apart from others. She never participated in the gatherings, festivals, or cheerful conversations that the villagers often held. Every day she lived a peaceful life, silently tending to her garden, harvesting fruit from the trees around her house, and taking care of her small home. People said she was a lonely woman, but also a kind one, never harming anyone. Occasionally, Mary would go to the village market on weekends to buy necessities, but she always hurried away, never stopping to chat with anyone. Everyone thought she led a simple, uneventful life with nothing special about it. However, no one knew that Mary harbored a great secret, one she had kept hidden for many years. In the dense forest near where Mary lived, few dared to enter. Stories of the deep woods, strange creatures, and inexplicable phenomena were often the subject of gossip in the village. People said there was something very strange, something larger than a human, hiding in the darkness of the forest. But no one dared to confirm this because they were afraid, and none of them stepped foot into the forest. One day, while Mary was walking in the forest to collect herbs, she accidentally heard a strange noise from a large bush. The sound of heavy breathing, the thudding of large footsteps on the forest floor, made her stop dead in her tracks, unable to move. She knew something was wrong, but she could not turn back. And then, from the darkness, a pair of glowing eyes appeared. It was a giant wolf, larger than any wolf Mary had ever heard of. It was injured, with blood still oozing from a wound on its leg. Despite her intense fear, Mary sensed weakness in the wolf's eyes, and her heart stirred with compassion. The wolf looked at her as if pleading for help, and she could not bear to see it suffer. Mary didn't think for long. She approached the giant wolf and gently placed her hand on its head. The wolf didn't resist, only breathing heavily as if it was exhausted. With all her patience and kindness, Mary took the wolf back to her house, placed it in a warm room, and began tending to its wounds. From that day on, the giant wolf never left Mary's side. It lay next to her small house day after day, becoming a part of her life. But what was strange was that the wolf never attacked anyone. It just stayed there, protecting her like a loyal companion, even though it could easily take down anyone who dared to come too close. The story of the giant wolf and Mary gradually spread through the village, but no one dared to approach. They believed the wolf was a dangerous and mysterious creature, and they thought Mary had been obsessed with loneliness and decided to raise the wolf. But no one knew that the bond between her and the wolf was much deeper than that. For many years, Mary had kept a great secret, a secret in which the giant wolf played the most important part. And it was a secret she would never share with anyone. One foggy morning, Mary decided to go into the forest as usual to collect herbs and pick some wild fruits. At this moment, the forest became eerily silent, with no birds singing, no wind rustling through the leaves. The feeling that something was wrong made her stop. She looked around, but all she saw was the thick fog covering everything, obscuring her vision. Carefully, she stepped deeper into the dense forest, where no one dared to go. The cold air made her shiver, but Mary did not feel afraid. To her, this forest had always been home, the place where she felt the most at peace. However, today was different. Suddenly, a loud sound came from behind, as if something was moving. She turned around, and in that brief moment, a massive figure emerged from the shadows of the forest. It was a wolf, but it was unlike any wolf she had ever heard of. This was a giant wolf, nearly twice the size of a human, with thick gray fur that seemed to be covered in darkness. Its eyes glowed brightly, like two flames burning. Mary stood still, her heart racing, but she did not run. She felt a strange pull toward this wolf. The wolf looked at her with a pained gaze, then slowly moved toward her. Despite its size and strength, it did not act aggressively. Instead, it walked slowly, as if exhausted. Mary could feel the weakness and pain in its eyes, and her heart swelled with sympathy. She decided to approach the wolf. Her legs trembled, but she continued forward, extending her hand as if she wanted to reach out to a harmless creature. When she got closer, the wolf did not attack, but instead lowered its head, allowing her to see the deep wound on its leg. Blood oozed from the wound, spreading across the ground. Mary looked at the wound, then at the wolf. There was no time to think. She quickly pulled a handkerchief from her cloth bag and carefully wrapped it around the wolf's wound. In just a moment, she made her decision. Without hesitation, she helped the wolf to its feet and guided it along. Although she knew it was very dangerous, she could not let the wolf suffer any longer. Despite its size and strength, the wolf was now as weak as an injured creature. If she left it in the forest, it would certainly not survive. Mary helped the wolf back to her house, braving the strong cold wind. The wolf walked beside her, each step heavy, and occasionally it glanced at her as though it wanted to thank her. A strange feeling rose in her heart. She realized that she wasn't just saving an animal, but that there was something very special about this wolf. When they arrived home, Mary placed the wolf in a warm room and then took bandages and ointment to tend to its wounds. Over the following days, she never left the wolf's side. Each time its wounds healed, the wolf grew bigger and stronger. Strangely, Mary never feared the wolf, even though it was becoming more powerful and enormous. On the contrary, she felt as if she and the wolf were becoming one, as if there was an invisible bond between them. The wolf grew increasingly friendly toward her, following her everywhere. Whenever Mary entered the forest, the wolf followed closely behind, silently protecting her. It never harmed anyone, even though she knew that with its strength, it could easily attack anyone who came too close. But it never did. It simply remained silent, always protecting Mary. The villagers began to notice what was happening. They saw the giant wolf standing by Mary's side, but no one dared to approach. Everyone was scared, and rumors about the wolf began to spread. But no one knew the truth. They couldn't understand the strange bond between Mary and the wolf. Some even believed Mary was obsessed with loneliness and had raised the wolf as a way to seek comfort. But who could have guessed that behind this giant wolf, there was a secret that Mary had been hiding for all these years? As time passed, the giant wolf grew even stronger. Every day it became taller, its body more muscular, and its thick gray fur grew denser than ever. Its presence was no longer a strange sight, but had become a familiar part of Mary's life. Despite its enormous size and strength, during all the time it lived with Mary, the wolf had never shown aggression or harmed anyone. Instead, it always protected her with an unmatched devotion. The villagers began telling stories about the wolf. They were still afraid whenever they saw it, but they could not help but be curious about what was happening in Mary's small house. Every time Mary went outside, the wolf stood by the door, as if guarding everything. It never strayed far from her, always staying close, its eyes glowing strangely, as though it could see everything in the darkness. The wolf was not just Mary's loyal companion, it was also the invisible protector of her house. Whenever anyone came near, the wolf quietly observed, not appearing threatening, but its glowing eyes made the villagers wary. Everyone felt afraid when they saw it, yet could not explain why the wolf never posed any danger to anyone. Then one morning, a strange event occurred. As Mary went outside to tend her garden, the wolf suddenly wandered farther than usual. It didn't just stand by the window as it usually did, but this time it walked into the forest. Mary felt that something was wrong. The wolf seemed to have an unusual intuition, as if it sensed that something was about to happen. Mary hurriedly followed the wolf into the forest, her heart filled with anxiety and worry. The wolf led her further than ever before, into a deep part of the forest she had never set foot in. The trees were dense and darkness enveloped everything, but the wolf walked calmly, as if it was familiar with the path. Mary tried to keep up, but the deeper they went into the forest, the stronger the strange sense of fear grew within her. It felt as though something was waiting for her up ahead. Finally, they stopped in an open area where a massive ancient tree stood, towering amidst the forest. Mary looked around, unsure why the wolf had stopped here. The wolf stood next to her, its eyes fixed on the ancient tree. Then it turned to look at her, as if trying to communicate something. Mary stepped closer to the tree, but as soon as her hand touched the bark, a chill ran through her body. Suddenly, a low growl echoed in the air. She jumped, looking around. The forest fell eerily silent, and the sunlight began to fade, leaving only a dense darkness. The wolf turned, its eyes glowing brightly like two torches, and it suddenly let out a long, sharp howl, causing Mary to recoil in fear. A strong gust of wind swept through, and from the shadows, a large figure emerged. Mary couldn't believe her eyes. It was no longer her wolf. It was another giant creature, with glowing eyes and fur thick as a storm. It was unlike any wolf she had ever seen, more like a mythical being, powerful and full of authority. The giant wolf looked at her one more time, as if confirming something. Mary stood there, confused, unable to comprehend what was happening. This wolf was not just an ordinary animal. It seemed like a creature from legend, something that could change the fate of the entire forest. She sensed that, all along, this wolf had been carrying out a mission that she could not foresee. The wolf looked at her one last time, then turned and vanished into the darkness. Mary stood there, unable to take her eyes off the place where the wolf had just been. Confusion and fear filled her heart. In the end, she had not just been keeping a wolf, but a creature with strange powers, and the secret behind it could change everything she had known about the world. Time passed, and Mary grew weaker. The cold of that winter seemed harsher than ever, making her feel tired and sore. The persistent coughs, her unsteady legs, she felt as if she no longer had the strength to do her usual tasks. Every time she went outside to the garden, the giant wolf followed her, always staying close, protecting her. But she realized that even it could not prevent the signs of her body's decline. Mary felt everything in her life was changing. Her little house no longer held the joy and peace it once did. Instead, she only felt the silent loneliness gnawing at her soul. Each morning, when she woke, it felt as if she had just endured a long, sleepless night. The aches and pains came daily, making her want to lie down and never face life again. The wolf was always by her side. Every time she felt tired, it would lie down beside her, its glowing eyes watching her, as if to say everything would be okay. But Mary knew the wolf could not protect her from death, something she was feeling more and more clearly. A rising fear crept in her heart. Could the wolf survive without her by its side? Could it continue to protect this house and preserve the secrets she had hidden for so many years? One autumn evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Mary sat by the window looking outside. The golden leaves fluttered in the wind, creating a melancholic scene. She sat there for a long time, as if contemplating everything that had happened in her life. She sensed that her time was running out. But then a strange feeling arose within her. It seemed that something was waiting for her. Mary reached out and gently stroked the gray fur of the wolf lying beside her. It looked at her with affectionate eyes, but Mary knew that it understood she could not live forever. A sense of fear flickered in her heart, but she could not avoid the truth. She had lived long enough to understand that no one could escape death, no matter how strong or weak they were. A few days later, Mary's health deteriorated even further. She lay in bed, too weak to do anything, only able to hear the soft breathing of the wolf beside her. It never left her side, but she could sense that, no matter how close it was, the wolf could not replace the love and care she needed. The memories of a peaceful life, the days spent with the wolf, now only brought pain, knowing that it would all come to an end. She felt she could not hold on to the past, could not keep the wolf, and could not hold on to this life forever. But she also knew that there was something greater than herself, something she could not fully understand, unfolding in the darkness. This feeling grew stronger as the wolf never left her side, its eyes always looking at her with deep intensity. She sensed that the wolf was not just a loyal animal, it might be carrying a mission that she had never known about. One night, while Mary was lying in her warm room, the wolf suddenly stood up and let out a long howl. She opened her eyes and saw the wolf staring intently at a dark corner of the room. Though she did not understand what was happening, she felt a chill enter the room, as if something frightening was approaching. The wolf showed no fear. On the contrary, it stood firm and stared into the darkness. Mary, though weak, still sensed that some change was about to happen. A sense of anxiety rose within her. Was the wolf protecting her from some unseen danger? Or was the wolf trying to tell her something she could not yet understand? This strange feeling kept her from sleeping peacefully, but there was nothing she could do but wait. It felt like an ending, but also the beginning of something far greater. One late night, when the surroundings were completely silent, something unusual happened. The giant wolf suddenly left its position beside Mary, stood up, and walked outside. Mary, lying in bed with her feverish eyes growing dim, heard the sound of the wolf's movement and immediately woke up. Her heart raced, sensing that something was terribly wrong. She tried to sit up, but her frail body could not support her. Then she saw the wolf leave the house, as if it was following something important. The pale light of the crescent moon illuminated the path in front of her house. The large wolf walked along the narrow path in the yard, not looking back, as though it had a clear purpose. Mary couldn't understand why the wolf was leaving at this moment when she was so weak, but a strange feeling arose in her heart. Perhaps it was leading her to something she had been searching for all these years. Despite her exhausted body, Mary decided to follow the wolf. She quickly put on a thin cloak and slowly stepped outside, trying to keep up with the wolf. The night was pitch black, with only the sound of the wolf's footsteps echoing in the stillness. The wolf never looked back at her, but it walked slowly, as if waiting for her to catch up. They passed through the forest, which Mary had walked through many times before, but tonight it felt different. Everything around them was gloomy. The ancient trees seemed taller, blocking out the sky. The air grew heavy and dense, as if something was waiting for them. As they went deeper into the forest, Mary felt her heart become empty and burdened. But she kept walking, despite each step growing more difficult. Finally, they arrived at a place she had never seen before. It was a strange location, with a crystal-clear lake, the water like a mirror, reflecting the hazy moonlight. The surface of the lake was still, with no waves, only the sound of the wind blowing through. Mary looked around, feeling as though she had been drawn into a completely different world. The wolf stopped by the lake, turned to look at her with deep eyes, as if trying to convey a message. Mary approached the water, unable to resist its pull. When she stepped onto the shore, the water suddenly rippled. A shadowy figure began to emerge from beneath the surface. She felt a chill run down her spine. A voice echoed in the quiet space. It was not the wolf's voice, but a gentle yet powerful voice, as if coming from deep within her heart. The wolf is not an ordinary creature. It is a being born from the darkness. It carries a mission that no one but you can understand. Mary froze, unable to comprehend. What did these words mean? Why did the wolf have a connection to darkness and a mission? A sense of dizziness overtook her, but the voice continued. The truth about the wolf has been hidden for too long, and now, as you are about to depart, it will become the guide to those things that have been forgotten. Mary felt as though everything around her was spinning. The wolf was not just a loyal companion. It had an important role in a grand plan that she had never known about. Although she didn't fully understand the story, she sensed that the wolf had come to her for some reason. Suddenly, the surface of the lake began to change. The water rose, swirling as if an invisible force was rising from beneath the lake. Mary couldn't take her eyes off the water, and when she turned back to look at the wolf, it had disappeared. It felt as though everything that had just happened was a strange dream. She felt she no longer had the strength to stand, but then a strong gust of wind blew, shattering the stillness of the space. She looked down at the lake, where just moments ago there had been clear water. Now a shadowy presence appeared, as if the figures of mysterious beings were waiting for her. Mary didn't understand what was happening, but one thing she could be sure of was this: the wolf was not just an ordinary creature. It carried within it a great mission, a mission that she might come to understand more clearly in the days ahead. A strange feeling and fear enveloped her. She could not go back, but she could not move forward either. She stood there, between darkness and light, between the past and the future, with the biggest question still unanswered. What will happen to her and the wolf? Mary stood there, in the strange space where everything seemed to be changing. The water in the lake continued to swirl fiercely, as if some mysterious force was rising from the depths of the lake. The moonlight reflected on the water, creating shimmering streaks of light, making the space around her even more mysterious and terrifying. She felt as though she were trapped between two worlds. The wolf was no longer by her side, but its gaze still lingered in her mind, as though it was watching every step she took. She felt anxious, confused, unsure of what to do next. The words of the voice from the lake still echoed in her mind. The wolf is not an ordinary creature. It carries within it a mission that no one but you can understand. Suddenly, a powerful growl echoed from afar. Mary jumped, feeling as if something was approaching, a powerful and terrifying presence. The wolf emerged from the darkness, but this time, it was no longer the wolf she was familiar with. It was larger, stronger, and its bright eyes seemed to hold something very different. The wolf stood there, looking at her with deep eyes, as though it was trying to convey something important. Mary felt her heart pound. Something very strange was happening, but she could not understand it. The loneliness and weakness within her made everything seem blurry. She didn't know if she had the strength to face the truth that the wolf might bring. The wolf moved closer to her, walking steadily, as if ready for something grand. It raised its head and looked into the dark sky. Suddenly, a light flashed behind the wolf. It was not the moonlight, but another light, powerful and brilliant. Mary stared at the light, feeling that something very important was happening. The wolf began to move, its steps firm and determined. Mary quickly followed, unable to take her eyes off the wolf, but also unable to understand what was happening. They passed through the forest, and this time, the forest was no longer the peaceful place it once was. Everything around them grew dark and gloomy, with trees growing thickly, as if trying to block every path. When they reached an open area, the wolf stopped. It turned to look at her, its eyes seeming to carry a message that she could not decipher. Mary felt as though she were standing at a crossroads, unsure of where to go, and there was a strong feeling that the decisions made today would affect the future of both her and the wolf. The strange light flashed again, and from the darkness, another figure appeared. It was a man, but his appearance was unlike anyone she had ever seen. He wore a black cloak, his face hidden in shadow, but his eyes shone with a strange light, as if holding all the secrets of this world. The wolf is not just a creature, the man spoke, his voice echoing in the space, sending chills down Mary's spine. It is a part of something greater, a mission long forgotten, and now it has returned to fulfill its purpose. Mary felt dizzy. What did these words mean? Could the wolf truly carry such a mission? Why was she here at this moment? The man stepped closer to her, his eyes never leaving Mary. You have chosen the wolf. You have raised it, protected it, but now you must make a choice. Are you ready to face the truth? Mary stood there, unsure of what to do. These words felt important, but she could not understand them. Could she face what this wolf truly was? Suddenly, the wolf turned and looked directly at her. It did not growl or act in any frightening way. It simply stood there, silently, as if waiting for a decision from her. Its eyes shone, as if sending a wordless message. Mary felt a powerful feeling rise within her. Though terrified, she knew she had to make a decision. This wolf was not just a companion. It might be a part of something much larger and incomprehensible. She took a deep breath, preparing herself to face what was to come. But she could not have imagined that this decision would open a door leading to mysterious and dangerous events she had never even dreamed of. Mary stood facing the wolf and the mysterious man, feeling as though the world around her was slowly disappearing. Everything she knew about life, about the wolf, now seemed meaningless. A terrifying truth, one she had never imagined, awaited to be revealed. The man stepped closer, his eyes unchanged. "This wolf is not an ordinary creature," he said, his voice deep and commanding. "It is part of an ancient plan, a plan in which you, Mary, have unintentionally become a part." Mary felt her heart tighten. I do not understand," she managed to say, her legs nearly giving way. "The wolf has just been my companion. I raised it since it was small." "That is why," the man interrupted, "you do not know the truth. You have raised the wolf for a reason you didn't even realize. It is not just an animal. It is a protector, the key to a dark force, and it will determine your future and the future of this world." The wolf looked at Mary with deep, penetrating eyes. It did not growl nor show fear. It just stood still, as if waiting for her response. Mary felt an immense, inexplicable power rising within her. She knew that, even if she did not want to, she had to face this. She asked in confusion, "But why didn't I know this? Why didn't I realize there was something different about it?" The man smiled coldly. "Because the truth has been hidden from you. You are the only one who can recognize the true power of the wolf, but it is for that very reason that you were not allowed to know too soon. When you are ready, when you understand the wolf's mission, you will have to choose." Mary felt a surge of fear rise within her. Choose what? You can allow the wolf to continue its mission, fulfilling its role as a protector. Or you can stop it, prevent it from completing the mission it was meant to carry out. Your decision will determine the fate of this world. The man's words struck Mary's mind like a bolt of lightning. The entire world suddenly seemed heavy and uncertain. Why could she decide the future of an entire world? Why did the wolf carry such a grand mission? She could not understand. Mary turned to look at the wolf. Its bright, glowing eyes stared at her, as if conveying an invisible message she could not hear. A strange feeling surged within her. This wolf was not just a companion, but a part of something much bigger, something she could not yet fully understand. Suddenly, a powerful sound echoed from afar. A strong wind blew through, causing everything around her to shake. The ground seemed to crack open, and a streak of light shone up from the depths of the earth. Mary felt as though she were standing at an unavoidable crossroads, where every decision carried immense significance. The man stepped back, watching her with a challenging gaze. "This world will change, Mary, and only you can decide how it will change." Mary looked at the wolf, looked at the man, and then looked at herself. It felt as though she had lived a long life, but had never truly understood it. She knew that now she had to face the truth and decide whether she could continue trusting the wolf or stop it and protect the peaceful life she had always longed for. The wolf suddenly turned, walking toward the streak of light from the earth, not looking back at her. It moved decisively, as though it had already made its own decision. Mary felt a vague fear and knew she had to follow the wolf. But as she stepped toward it, a loud explosion rang out, causing the ground beneath her feet to tremble. A great crack appeared, splitting the earth and sky, and from there, a destructive power began to rise. Mary saw the wolf still moving toward the streak of light, but at this moment she could not stop. A feeling of anxiety and helplessness filled her mind. Could she prevent what was coming? Was the wolf a savior or the ultimate destruction? In that moment, she saw something sparkling beneath the ground, something she had never seen before. And then, before she could understand what was happening, a powerful wave of light engulfed everything, pulling her into another world where everything became blurry and beyond explanation. Thank you all for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the best stories. See you in the next one.